Basically, this is kind of like an epoxy. I don't know what it really is, but it's a two-part. And one's labeled still, one's labeled hardener. So as you can see, I'm spreading my mix out liberally, working it into the V-notch that I created, and trying to spread it beyond. So you may recall that when we took the grill off, we had this tab that was broken. We're going to go ahead and just pull this off and see if we can fix it. I have been using JB Weld for a number of years, and it's an amazing product. And in fact, on my other rover, I had a tab break off my shroud, a mounting tab off my fan shroud down at the bottom on the side, and I pulled that out and fabricated an aluminum tab, and I glued it on with JB Weld to the plastic shroud, and it's been 3 years now. It's still on there. So pretty amazing stuff. So we're just going to come over here, and number one, let's make sure that you got a good fit. Oh yeah, it's going to snap in there just fine. Okay, so I'm going to set up my tripod and I'll just walk you through this process. Not a big deal, but I thought I would show it for those who haven't used a product like this before. Alright, so basically this is kind of like an epoxy. I don't know what it really is, but it's a two-part. And one's labeled still, one's labeled hardener. So I always start with the still, and I just approximate how much I'm going to need for my little project, and I match the hardener. There have been times where I want it to either dry faster or slower than normal, and I'll adjust the hardener accordingly. Obviously, if you want it to dry faster, you can use more hardener, and vice versa. And then just mix it up. Typically it should be a nice battleship gray color when you get done, or something close to that. And we're applying this to an area where it's not cosmetic. It's going to be hiding under the hood. So I'm not concerned about looks really. Make sure our piece fits. We know where it's going. So what I will do is I'll butter the edges, and I may lather a little extra along the back edge. Well, that's the mounting edge, so maybe I won't. We'll just see how it goes. So I always clean this with alcohol first, but obviously I just forgot to do that. So I guess we'll do half of it, and we can clean. That thing's been gathering dust for a long time. Yeah, should have done this earlier, but I forgot. Good thing alcohol dries quickly. It's interesting, I've learned to keep a bottle of isopropyl alcohol in my shop because seems like I use it so frequently. All right. We'll do the clean side now. Okay. Now that we've got that buttered on, we fix our piece in place. And in fact, what I may do is lather the extra on the front instead of the back. Well, I don't think a millimeter or so on the back is going to hurt anything. So I'm just going to, we're going to smooth this out a little bit. I mean, typically I would grind down some of my edges, maybe even make a V-notch in there so the glue can settle in, but this was just a low-level quick fix, and I'm really not too concerned about it. That grill's been sitting that way since I bought it, which was 3 years ago. Just hasn't been a priority. Now you can always leave your mounds higher and then sand or grind it down. This stuff sands well. I actually repaired a hole in a plastic bumper on a previous Range Rover. A little hit and run in a parking lot in the wintertime, probably with the edge of a snowplow blade. And I just glued the piece back in with JB Weld and let it dry for a few days, and then sanded it right down with my sander. It worked great. Okay, so we're just going to let that sit for 24 hours. And that's it. That's how simple it is. So I'm going to come back to this project. Our little glued tab with the JB Weld has had about 24 hours to cure. And I realized I was a bit hasty. I didn't really prep it properly like I normally do. I was just trying to do a quick project. So we're coming back and I put a little extra effort into making sure that this lasts a little longer. So I'm going to use my Dremel tool, and we're going to cut a groove from the new piece across here on kind of a 45, and we'll do another one on this side, and I might even do one on the back. And then we'll clean that off properly, and we'll put a little bit more JB Weld just to tie the main body to the broken off piece. So we'll do that real quick. All right, so now I'm going to we're going to blow that off and scrub it off with a brush, and then We'll put some alcohol on that. Might even, let's do one on the back. You can't see that, so I'm going to do that in the background. Alright, now back to our alcohol. I'm going to clean off the whole area surrounding because we're going to overlap a little bit. Kind of feather this into the hole. So I'm being generous with my amount of alcohol. Get rid of all that plastic dust and dust from digging the JB Weld away. So we had a moderately expensive vacuum that lasted us for literally 15 years. And eventually the entire housing of the vacuum broke, and took it to the repair shop, and they were going to pull parts off of an old vacuum of a different color, and it was going to look like hodgepodge. And I thought, well, if we have to put up with the hodgepodge look, I can take it home and use JB Weld on it. And I did. I cleaned it off like this with the Dremel, made some V-notches to create strength between the brakes, and put liberal coats feathered out from the center to the edges. And there were two big long cracks. And that held for another 5 years. And in fact, when we moved, we took that vacuum to a thrift store, still operating, 20 years old. So this stuff, it holds well. We're going to give it just a second for this alcohol to dry off. And then, in fact, I'll grab the JB Weld and we'll start mixing that up in the meantime. Alright, I do typically wear gloves when I mix this stuff. Sorry, I forgot my mixing tool, which I usually just use a stick match, but you can mix with anything that's disposable. Obviously, don't use a good tool. So, put on the still first. And I'm going to put a good little bit here. Mix equal amounts. I'm not in any hurry to dry this up. I'm still waiting for my alternator to show up, which today's Friday. It doesn't come supposedly till Monday, which is really frustrating. Actually, I got a little carried away with that, so I'm going to put a little more still here. Okay, now we'll just mix it up. So we're not competing. All right, that's a good dark gray color. And again, you can tell how fast it's going to cure by the darkness of the gray. The darker the gray, the slower it will cure. The hardener's white, so the more hardener you put in, the lighter gray it will become, which means it will cure faster. All right. Typically, I would set this up and do this flat-wise, but right now. It's just easier with this grill as big as it is to lay like this. So it works. It's not as, so as you can see, I'm spreading my mix out liberally, working it into the V-notch that I created, and trying to spread it beyond. And I'm just kind of doesn't help that my subject is moving here. So this will add some strength. I don't know if it was originally busted through user error or if it was a stress break from vibration and heat. Not sure. I got plenty on that hole because I need to relieve room for my screw there. I'm going to move some of that to the back trough. Okay. And I know you can't see it, but I'm going to do the back real quick. Now the back I need to be a little flatter because obviously this is mounting to the front frame of the car, and so we make it too high and then we are going to cause stress fractures. And I can always grind that down with the angle grinder too. So the other thing is I did this a little bit the first time, but you can also build up your edges because our edges aren't impacted by anything. Like they don't have to fit anywhere in this case, and it's not cosmetic. So I can take my excess and I can build it along the edge here and again feather it out so that my strength is distributed along the surface. All right. So we'll let that dry. Obviously, it's going to get dry for 2 or 3 days now until we get the alternator in, and so it will be well hardened. But I don't think we're going to have any problem with this for a long time to come. I keep thinking I'm done with this video, but let me show you something. I forgot that when I first bought this about 3 years ago that this grill had some problems, and I used JB Weld on the inside. So this is, these welds are 3 years old, and look at that. Firmly secured. Firmly secured to the main black part, and then we've got the silver part. And I filled in this whole valley here with the weld, and then spread it out evenly. Now there are some, I don't know what you call them, they had kind of these plastic rivets or expansion pieces that hold this in, and almost all of them were broken. So all of these have different levels of welds. In fact, I've gone around the whole thing. I forgot I did this, and just secured these little plastic rivets so that they wouldn't break like the rest of them, and the stuff just keeps holding. So I just thought I would show you that. It's a great product. By the way, I might add, this is not sponsored by JB Weld. I believe I mentioned that in the beginning. So, but it's a good product, so I'm happy to tell you about it. Have a great day.